Hello, I'm Scott Robinson. I started my YouTube channel as an effort to have a place to share things that I found interesting of my own creation. Mostly what I've been doing so far is messing with scammers. There's been a couple of other things on there. I used to be in talk radio. Never made a big splash at it, but I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. And so I want to do some of that sort of a thing, talk radio. But in order to get good at that again, I've really got to start putting myself out there and sharing my thoughts, expressing myself. And I'm not going to get better if I never start. So I'm going to start today. Mainly because I came across something on Facebook that I wrote about a year ago about the time that Caitlyn Jenner was coming out in the media. So even though this is about a year old, I still find it a timely thing. We've talked a lot about transgender restroom use lately. There was a story recently in my local area about a junior high girl who wanted to wrestle, but there wasn't a girls wrestling team and she was being forbidden. So this issue, it's not going away anytime soon. So I thought, using that piece I wrote a year ago as a basis, as a template, I'm going to record a little something. I'm going to post it on YouTube. I'm going to see what happens with it. Because if I never put myself out there, I'm never going to do what I would like to do with this channel. I want to be known as more than the guy who scam baits. So what follows are my thoughts on Caitlyn Jenner in particular, but really anybody who's dealing with transgender issues of some sort. If my opinions mean anything to you, and really, why should my opinions mean anything to you? If you're watching this, either you know me and probably already know my opinion, or you've never heard of me and you just came across this. So my opinions are not worth more or less than anybody else's. They're just my opinions. However, I'd suggest you listen all the way to the end because I've got a number of points to make. A friend posted on Facebook about a year ago that she would unfriend, block from her Facebook account in her actual life anyone who shared or even liked that Matt Walsh hate speech about Caitlyn Jenner. Now, if you don't know who Matt Walsh is, he's a blogger. He's a very conservative blogger. And he doesn't mince words. He says what he thinks. And he was very much opposed to this Caitlyn Jenner thing. Now, a number of my friends' liked her post. This presumably means that they support that stance, that if you like Matt Walsh and if you share this thing that Matt Walsh wrote, then we cannot be social friends anymore. I cannot have anything to do with you. So, now, I didn't share or like Matt Walsh's piece. In fact, I had not even read it prior to reading that announcement that if you dare do this, you're blocked forever. Then I did read it. So 1, I support my friend and anyone who has a desire to control who they allow into their lives. Life is too short to be miserable. And if someone makes you miserable, or contemplation of somebody holding opinions with which you disagree makes you miserable, you owe it to yourself to decrease your misery by removing their presence from your life as much as you can. Now, having read that article from Matt Walsh, I don't think it would be hard to find if you wanted to search for it. I don't find his words hateful. I don't feel compelled to share them. I have shared other things that he had written in the past. And I never click like or, favorite things online, much less Matt's work. but I do agree with much of what he wrote in that piece. Now, that being said, Matt certainly comes off as arrogant and inflexible in most things he writes. If that is hatred, well, then we just disagree on what hatred is, but so be it. Maybe the headline is the hateful part. The headline of this article was, quote, "Calling Bruce Jenner a woman is an insult to women," close quote. I would file that under the arrogant and inflexible stuff I referred to previously. The one point that Matt makes that I cannot refute, and I guess this is sharing, so take it as you will. He wrote, "After all, according to mainstream feminist wisdom, there is no such thing as a female brain or a female soul or feeling like a female. By the words of every liberal who has ever said anything on the subject of women's rights in the past 4 decades, how you dress, look, think, and feel have nothing to do with your womanhood. Usually it would be offensive and sexist to accuse a woman of acting like, thinking like, or feeling like a woman. Yet now suddenly emotions and looks define a woman so severely that a man can actually become one if he claims to experience feelings he assumes are feminine? The whole thing contradicts itself." So, people are free to change their name, their politics, their hairstyle, or whatever. If the one-time Olympian known to the world as Bruce Jenner now wants to be known as Caitlyn Jenner, fine. It's not like Caitlyn and I were ever going to be pals, hanging around, or anything. And if I were to decide to change my name for whatever reason, I really wouldn't much care what Caitlyn thought about my choice. Here's the thing that gets to me. If we learned about someone practicing self-mutilation, cutting their flesh, we would encourage them to seek therapy to get to the root of the problem and try to fix it if possible. Not so long ago, a desire to change gender was considered a form of mental illness, and from that point of view, it could certainly be taken as self-mutilation, if one is going to go the full surgical route to gender reassignment. Not everyone who considers themselves transgender goes the full surgical route, but Matt was talking about mutilation, so I'm referencing it here. In The Family, A Proclamation to the World, a piece written by the LDS Church, it is stated that gender is an essential characteristic of an individual premortal, mortal, and eternal identity and purpose. On that theological basis, which I accept, you can choose to accept it or reject it as you see fit. I believe that Caitlyn is male, and that short of some yet uninvented medical procedure, anything done to transform Caitlyn from masculine to feminine, from man to woman, in appearance is just that. It's in appearance. It's superficial. Now, I personally believe Caitlyn's desire to be identified as a woman is abnormal. Is it a mental illness? I don't know. I'm not a mental health researcher. I don't mean abnormal as evil or disgusting. A lot of people think abnormal is a judgment call. It's not any of those. It's not any negative adjective. I simply mean abnormal as not of the norm, not normal. Given the number of people who seem to suffer from gender identity disorder, according to one website I've read, claims that less than 0.004% of men, even fewer women. Abnormal seems to be a safe statement in my opinion. Abnormal, atypical, not average. These are not meant judgmentally, they are meant statistically. I do think there is something wrong with Caitlyn, though I don't know how to identify a root cause or recommend a fix. You know, when I was in college, I took a couple of sign language classes. I've forgotten most of what I learned, but I do recall, just in learning about the deaf culture, that there are people in the deaf community who do not desire to be fixed. They believe that they are just fine without what we consider valuable, normal hearing. Some people choose not to fight disease for a variety of reasons. On this basis, I guess my opinions on gender identity disorder don't mean much to anyone other than myself. If we are going to permit people to avoid treatment for things that they think or that we think that they should want, I don't see this as being much different. Okay, that was poorly worded. If someone has cancer, they are free to either accept treatment or not. If someone is deaf, but there are treatments available that could restore some or all of their hearing, they are free to either seek the treatment or to not seek the treatment. In the case of some deaf people, they don't think deafness is something to be fixed, that it is perfectly fine and normal for them. If someone has gender identity disorder, they may not consider it something to be fixed. If you don't see something as a disorder or a malfunction or whatever, then you won't feel the need to seek treatment. In the specific case of gender identity disorder, I think everyone is in agreement that something is wrong. Matt's article referenced previously makes it clear where he stands. The problem is a mental problem. Caitlyn's stand seems pretty clear too. The problem is a physical problem, to some extent, to be dealt with, at least in part, by changing the physical to match the mental model. The whole discussion boils down to what is wrong with Caitlyn. Is it mental or is it physical? Is it something to be fixed or is it something to be lived with? Regardless of anything I've said before, I believe that Caitlyn, I'm going to get a little religious here, is a beloved child of a loving Heavenly Father. He loves Caitlyn regardless of what gender Caitlyn self-identifies as. And according to my understanding of my theology, this life is just a beginning. I, Scott, have made approximately 1 kabillion mistakes in my life, or sin, or whatever you want to wish to call it. I should be far more concerned with and interested in my own salvation, my own problems. I mean, I'm concerned about everybody. I should be concerned about everybody. But I can't save my wife or my children or you. I can only do my best, and I will fall short, and allow the atonement to make up the difference for me and help whomever wants or needs my help. Anyone who knows me, I think, could probably assure you I have an odd sense of humor. I have almost certainly made jokes in the past that people find inappropriate. In fact, I know that I have because I've had people unfriend me on Facebook over these things. I very well may in the future. In fact, it's almost certainty. I will probably make jokes that somebody will find inappropriate at some point in the future. I might even make a joke about Caitlyn at some point. All these events, people unfriending me, people rejecting me because I said something that they didn't find as funny as I did, it's something. It makes me sad to an extent. So, to everyone, to my friends, to strangers, I don't know if I'm hateful. I don't think I'm hateful, but I guess hate is in the eye of the beholder. I do not support or condone Caitlyn's choices, or anybody who chooses to go that particular route. I also don't support and condone some of the choices that I've made in my past. I just have the, a benefit that I don't take these things that I've done wrong in the past and go to major national publications and have them printed for the world to read. I believe there will come a time that Caitlyn rejects these choices. In fact, I've read articles that to an extent say that Caitlyn freaked out at certain points during her journey. So, if this makes me hateful by your standards, I'm sorry. You probably don't want to have anything to do with me. I'll take no joy in that, but I'll understand. Thanks for listening to my 1-year-old thoughts on the subject. Again, I need the practice, and if I never record stuff and if I never put it online, I'm never going to have an incentive to get better, to improve this opinion-based op-ed talk radio sort of thing on YouTube. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time. Take care.